Nah, they decided, they went out in the truck and looked, and they thought that it looked distracting from the mayor.
You want to focus on the speaker. That's fine. Hey, Chuck. How you doing, Martin? Good.
Tim, yeah, I'll introduce you.
It might be Martin's. Is that your bag? Martin?
We can share it. Yeah, we all set to go?
Mayor?
Yes. Yeah, we all set? State of the city. We all set? Okay. Okay, are we all set? We can get started here tonight. Thank you all for coming out. This is the first time that we're going to be doing the State of the City in the newly renovated building here, which is now also serving as our city council chambers. This is the 2019 State of the City. And when you look at North Canton, we all know that it's a great place to live. It's great because we have great schools, we've got great businesses, and we have great people. We're going to be looking at today 3 areas. We're going to be looking at economic development, our current operations, and the safety and security of our city. So when you look at economic development, bringing jobs, is what drives the engine. When we have jobs, then we need homes, we need roads, we need city services, police, fire, and EMS. When we have jobs in the city, that they pay income tax, and that's the primary driver that allows us to operate and provide services. One of the big successes that we've had this year is Akron Children's Hospital. Now, when you think of a big success, a big economic development success, a lot of communities, it could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years when they get a project like this, Akron Children's. So Akron Children's is noted across the country, one of the best medical institutions for our children. They were looking for a new location. One of the places on their list was North Canton. So the negotiations began about 10 months ago, because of course they're looking for financial incentives so that they can provide cost-efficient and effective service. So what we did is we finally came to an agreement, and they decided to relocate an additional building, 38,000 square feet. It's a 10-year agreement with financial incentives. It's anticipated to generate a $2.75 million payroll, and that would be over $40,000 the city of North Canton annually. In addition, our North Canton City Schools will collect approximately $200,000 by the increase in our tax base. Rather than having an empty hillside or empty lot there, now we've got a brand new $38,000 medical facility. And then they also gave us a $250,000 grant so that we could build a new performing arts center that's going to be at Dogwood Park. In addition to that, what's most important, not only do we have the new jobs and the new facility here, they're going to be expanding in the near future with additional buildings and more jobs. Another big success that we've had is the Diebold Nixdorf. And you can see here in the article on the front page, it's big news here for Stark County. And what are the benefits that we have when we look at Diebold Nixdorf? One of the benefits is our IT. I'll get into the IT in a moment here as soon as we get this thing turned back on. All right, how does that sound? Not good. I think I hit something here.
Battery.
Anybody know how to turn this thing on? Here we go. All right, don't touch the microphone. So, when we're looking at, when we look at jobs, what we did is we revitalized the north portion of the Hoover District. So the former Suarez building, 200,000 square feet. If you take a look at the inside of that now, it's newly painted, newly renovated. It's up to the Diebold Nixdorf standards. They provide ATMs all around the world. When you go and you take cash out of the bank, they're made through Diebold Nixdorf. 215 new jobs to the city of North Canton. That's over $120,000 in income tax every single year. We are taking a portion of that income tax and we are giving it as an incentive. We will collect it and then we give up to 50% back to Diebold Nixdorf so they can reinvest into their business. And that's what allows their business to grow and add more jobs. It's an $8.4 million payroll. Again, that's what drives business here in our city. Another area that you look at when you look at revenue for the city, it's income tax, which is the primary generator for revenue for the city, but it's also property tax. So when you look at the Hoover District, it's over 60 acres and it's in the heart of the city. When the Hoover Company left, that property value overall dropped to $4.2 million. When we secured the Job Ready Sites grant, $5 million, we reinvested that funding from the state. It didn't cost the North Canton residents any money. We reinvested that, redeveloped the Hoover District, and now when you look at the property value, it's over $21 million. That's a 403% increase. We didn't get that value by raising additional levies in this case, but what we were able to do is through business incentives, we increase the business, which increases the property values. We want to do that with residential and commercial and industrial. Another benefit when you look at the Hoover District is you look at the jobs. Now this is an aerial shot, and the reason we put the aerial shots, you're looking at the rooftops, is because these are the key areas where they have businesses. We're looking at, in the front portion along Main Street, we're looking at the residential. There's a lot of excitement about the residential units. One thing that we know for sure, in order for them to bring the residential and the retail portion to completion, they have to meet the US EPA requirements. There's much more stringent residential requirements per the US EPA, and the city is working closely with the US EPA to make sure that those requirements are met and that we can move forward with this project. It's taking more time, but again, we want to make sure that the people in our city are safe. When we look at the areas where we brought in new jobs and also new revenue, it's particularly in the East Office. And that is in the eastern portion along Maple Street. We have 1,200 new jobs in that, well over 1,200 new jobs. That amount fluctuates because you'll have companies' numbers that fluctuate from year to year. But when you think back of when the Hoover Company left, they had 2,300 jobs. We lost 2,300 jobs. In 2008, there were 0 employees. The city lost 23% of their revenue. Now we're back up to 1,200 jobs, and we're getting over $500,000 a year every single year from the Hoover District. So that's an incredible success, but it did take time. And now, you know, as mayor, I think this is the greatest city. I know it's the greatest city, but that's just not enough. We know our council members, we know all of you think that this is the greatest city. But we need more than that to be a significant indicator for having a great city. So we do that in another way. So back in 2009, we sent out a city survey, and that was per performance audit from the state of Ohio. We asked them to come in and audit all of our departments. And what they decided was that the city should send out a survey every 3 years and ask the residents how they think we are doing. And so we asked them a number of questions, and some of the key questions, some of the key indicators is, you know, it's a great place to live. Tell us about the quality of life. So if you can see in the green bar, that's in 2012. And the blue bar is 2016, and then in the red is 2019. So when you're looking at those numbers, you can see the people that gave a good to excellent response went up. It continues to go up. And so we have, you know, well, nearly 90% of our residents are giving quality of life in North Canton a good to excellent rating. Another question then that was asked, and keep in mind when we send this survey out, it goes to every single household. So we had approximately 5,500 households that got a hard copy of our survey. And they responded to the questions, and 70% provided hard copy, and about 30% responded via electronic. So we offered both. So another key question was, how many of you plan to stay in the city of North Canton for the next 5 years? And when you look at the numbers consistently from 2012, 2016, 2019, you can see that well over 80% of the people want to stay here in the city of North Canton. And that's another key indicator that things are going well, that people want to live here, they want to stay here. Now let's take a look at the current operations, the general fund revenue. The general fund revenue is really the primary source of revenue that we collect here in order to provide city services. And how is that money spent? So when you look at it, it's about $7.45 million in the general fund revenue. About 68%, nearly 70% is income tax. And so as you can see, why is it we always talk about jobs? We need more jobs in the city because jobs provide 70% of our revenue here in the city. When we have people working here in the city, we have revenue coming in. We can pay for our police, our fire, and EMS. And then the second portion, largest portion, is property tax. Property tax is very critical to the city. The schools receive about 70% of the property tax, and we receive as little as 7%, but it's still one of our largest sources of revenue. Now we're going to take a look at the top 10 employers in North Canton, and this is a really, really important slide. If you were to look at this back, let's say in 2005, when I first began serving as mayor, you would not see this top 10 as it is now. The majority of them were not on this list. With the exception of Walsh University and North Canton schools, that list had changed. Because Hoover had provided nearly 25% of the city's income tax revenue. And when they left, economically it was devastating for the city. So what we knew we needed to do was that we had to become stronger financially, attract more businesses, and diversify our tax base so that we were no longer dependent on just one company. In the event that a company leaves, we would be able to absorb that in the future. So now we're going to take a look at the income tax revenue. Again, the income tax revenue, this is an important slide because it shows really the trend. So when we say that we're stronger financially, people might ask, well, how could you say that we're stronger financially? Well, we, again, look at our primary source of income for a city. So if you take a look at the third bar, 2010, that was our lowest point, $5.4 million in income tax. And that was due to two reasons. One, the Hoover Company leaving, And in addition to that, we had the economic downturn. That was in 2010 when we felt the biggest impact. So at that point, that's when we went from 116 employees, and as people retired, we reduced the number to operating employees down to 91. So we significantly trimmed our costs. We found ways to become more efficient and effective. Now the great news is, look at us here 8 years later, 9 years later, over $8 million in income tax, and we did not, and we'll go to the next slide, we did not raise the income tax. So we kept the income tax at 1.5%. And I remember when Hoover first left, I was one of the ones that was proposing, we're going to have to raise the income tax, thinking that we're not going to be able to function without this. And after reviewing it, the council had decided we're going to have a performance audit with the state of Ohio, we're going to keep the income tax the same, and it was really one of the best decisions that we made. Because we know now that the new businesses that are in the Hoover District and in the city of North Canton, one of the primary forces is that we have kept our income tax at 1.5%, and also there's no cost to park. And the biggest thing that they love is we have a clean, safe city. So when an employer, a company owner wants to come to the city, they're looking at it and saying, how much more is it going to cost us in tax? How much more in parking? Those are expenses that they have to cover for their employees. So we've been able to do that and keep the tax rate the same. Now we'll look at the tax-supported operating costs. When you look at the three largest expenses for our city, and this is true with any cities across the United States, we have the police department at 24% of our total expenses, and we have the streets at 22%, and our fire and EMS are at 18%. So, you're looking at way more than half is into police, fire, EMS, and also our streets. But, we've managed to be very cost efficient and effective with that, and we're continuously reinvesting with our police, fire, and EMS, and that's why we have such a high rating with our residents. Okay, the next area, too, which is a key indicator that is often overlooked in cities, and this is grant dollars. So we knew when the Hoover Company had left, there were two things we were going to have to do. We were going to have to increase our income tax revenue, increase the property tax revenue, or increase the property values, and in addition to that, increase the amount of grant money that we secured. So when you look at the amount of grant dollars that we secured alone this year, $5.4 million. So that's money that comes from the state, the federal government in order to redo roads. When you look at Washington Square, that was the majority of that, $3 million, was with state and federal grant funds. So that has always been a big driving force of grant dollars. And then since 2005, we've secured over $30 million in grants. And that is a record throughout the city's history for the amount of grant dollars that we've secured. One of the other questions that we've asked the residents is the administration. The mayor, the administration, what type of service is being provided? And the good thing is that we had nearly 70% of the residents gave us a good to excellent rating. And some of the primary programs that we believe is driving this is that we've always taught our services. Our goal was to be cost efficient and effective with everything that we do. Dating back to 2005, and I know all of our council members know this, any decision that we were going to make was going to bring new jobs and was it going to allow the city to be more cost efficient and effective. And if the answer was yes to both of those, then we would move ahead with it. Another area is business development. Again, if you want to bring new businesses and jobs to the city, you have to offer tax incentives. Tax incentives are a requirement for a city to grow and bring new jobs. Cybersecurity is another area that we've had to work very hard on. So we started to work with a new company. Securing our IT has been really important. And also the community partnerships that we have. We have a lot of people, a lot of organizations that work together and help us to distribute the grant funds so we can provide a better way of life for the people in North Canton. We also, when you look at the water meters, so in the past we had a water meter where one of our employees would walk around and they would check your water meter on the home. We're now transitioning to an electronic water meter. Why is that important? Number one, we don't have to have a person walking around and collecting it. It will submit electronically. The other thing is, too, is if somebody goes on vacation, they go out of town, they have a water main break, and that water is just pouring into their house, we'll be able to have a real-time reading. So no longer are we going to have a water main break in somebody's house where the water just continues to pour out and they get like a $600 bill. So we're going to be able to reduce incidents of just water main breaks going undetected. Another area is park and recreations. So when you look at the citizens survey, consistently 2012, 2016, 2019, it's over 80% are pleased with our parks and our recreation in North Canton. We have a great partnership with the North Canton YMCA. I mean, they're one of the best YMCAs, the top 10 in the United States. So that really enhances the recreation services that we provide. You see a picture of Dogwood Pool. And what we did is we knew that there was nobody better at running a swimming pool and training lifeguards than the YMCA. So we partnered with them. It's actually increased our revenue. And I'll tell you, it's really a great partnership for the Y and for the city. When you look at our park and recreations, on our next slide, in North Canton, we really support our veterans, and we support the men and women that serve our community, and we can see that in just in the conversations and the interactions we have with our residents. So we had Dr. Tim Novelli, one of our local chiropractors out on Main Street here. He wanted to know if we would have a Gold Star Memorial. And a Gold Star member is a club that nobody ever wants to join. If you're a Gold Star family member, that means that you've lost your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, or a family member while serving in the United States military. And so we thought it would be a great idea. So we went down and we located the memorial down there off of Glenwood and Price Park. And if you realize that when somebody gives the ultimate sacrifice, serving our country, they also are a Purple Heart recipient. So we now call it the Gold Star Purple Heart Memorial. And it's been a great memorial, we've had a great response, and we're just so fortunate and blessed to have it right here in North Canton. In addition to that, you can look at our pickleball courts. I know our Councilman Stephanie Warren is out here, and she's a pickleball player, and there is a lot of people that are coming in playing pickleball in North Canton. Never played it myself, but you can just see with all the cars out on the pickleball courts, we've got to have some more. And then you look at the new parks. You know, we're investing new parks through our grant dollars into our park system. You know, it's the parents and the children, they love having that. Also the Civic Center enhancement. If you notice, you know, just little details like this. You know, we have the resilient vinyl. It looks like hardwood floor, but it's really vinyl. And it's no longer carpeting because it's much less expensive to maintain. It lasts longer than carpeting. So just those little things really allow us to save money going into the future. Now we'll take a look at our street department. Our street department, we're replacing all the storm sewer catch basins. So a lot of you may think, well, why is that important? We have hundreds, well over 800 storm sewer catch basins. We were replacing them every 5 years because we had the concrete and the brick that were just deteriorating. So we knew we had to improve upon that. So we actually went up to the city of Akron. We knew they had a lot of storm sewer catch basins, and they had all precast. So now, whenever we put in a storm sewer catch basin, it's precast, and those last up to 40 years. So that just saves thousands and thousands of dollars into the future, and then we have less flooding in our streets. Next, we're going to look at the snow removal. And also, when you look at the street department, consistently nearly 80% of the residents, you do see a spike. So on that slide, Ben, if you can go back real quick. When you see the street department, why did we have a spike in 2019? We have our new city engineer, and he gets these road projects done like right away. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we had almost all of our road projects done. It was incredible. And so, you know, we believe that having all the road projects nearly completed, with the exception of Everhart, we're still working on that one, nearly 80% good, excellent rating. Now, the next slide, I mean, this quote here that we have at the top on snow removal, because you hear this all the time from people. When it snows, you know where North Canton streets begin and end. I mean, we've had a great reputation for our snow and ice removal. And our guys are on top of it, they're spreading the salt, they're plowing the streets, And it's just something, we believe in, what makes us different from other communities. I mean, we're all people, but I think it's the standard that we hold. We hold high standards here. And I think that dates back years to when the Hoover Company was here, that they had high standards. Boss Hoover was the mayor, he was the owner of the company, the president, and he was even the Bible teacher, and they just had high standards, and that's what we want to have here. Our drinking water, same thing. We have over 250,000 tests that are done every year on our drinking water. It's safe, clean drinking water, and we have an excellent rating with the Ohio EPA. Our residents consistently give us roughly 80% good to excellent rating. Another is traffic safety. If you look, you can see the pedestrian signs. The pedestrian signs, this has been great. If you're speeding along, I know none of you in this room speed, but you go the speed limit, but for those of you who drive a little fast, that light will actually flash. Now, how do I know this? I did test it out a little bit, and it was on purpose. So, I'm traveling a little bit faster, and it says slow down. Flashes slow down. So, when you look at the residents, we've had over 60% that say that they believe that it's really slowed the traffic down. And then when we have pedestrian crossings, like especially over on Maple Street, where we have a lot of, we have all those new jobs, so they're walking back and forth, we have flashing signs so that cars can slow down. And it's all LED and solar powered. Now we look at property code enforcement. This is an area that we have to improve upon. So they've done a study, Stark Strength, saying that our community throughout Stark County is aging. Population is aging. Our buildings are aging. And so along with that, we've got to stay on top of our property code enforcement. So you can clearly see in the survey, the good to excellent rating, it was like a 45%, and now it's dropped to a 40% over the years. That's something that our city council and our department heads and our city administrator are fully aware of, and that's something like making sure that the grass is cut regularly, making sure that the homes are properly painted and in good condition. So that's an area that we're going to continue to work on and improve upon. We look at our safety services. Now, our fire department, we have, I believe, the best trained firefighters in Ohio. I mean, they train every Monday night, and they alternate between paramedic training and fire training every other Monday. So if you're in our North Canton Fire Department, you're going to be training every Monday night. And they train for real life. So we did have an accident a couple of years ago where a young lady and her boyfriend were run over by a car at 11 o'clock at night in less than 5 minutes of when the 911 call came out. The young lady was trapped under the car. And so they, from the time the call went in, they had the car off of her and removed her, took her to the hospital and saved her life. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of hours and hours of training. Then we look at our North Canton Police Department. And also, when you look at that, consistently with the police, fire, EMS, consistently 90% good to excellent rating. Now we'll look at our police department. Police department does an excellent job. We have done an excellent job over the years. It's because we have committed people. I mean, they are willing to get out there and not only protect and serve the people, but they're also willing to put their life on the line. All of our firefighters, all of our police officers. So when you look at the next slide here, just in 2018 alone, we had 4 of our police officers that were given ribbons of heroism. And I saw the videos of the body cams of the gentlemen when they were going into the building. And I'll tell you, it was a moving video, because these men are running into the building when it's on fire, and they're pulling the family members out. And it is, if anybody has ever experienced a fire, even if you're at just a small little cookout and you see the smoke that develops, I mean, it's hard to imagine what it's like going into a burning building without any gas mask, without any equipment, without a hose, just running in there and getting people out. So we had 2 situations in North Canton, one in a house fire and one in an apartment fire. And it's Officer Carroll and Lewis went into the house and saved the people's lives. And then also Sergeant Buzzard and Officer Kramer did that in an apartment. And the only way that that happens is when you have individuals that are willing to put others ahead of their own self-interest. Those are the type of people we have in our camp. Now this next slide is what I think is probably our greatest accomplishment. Probably one of the best accomplishments that we've had since I started serving as mayor. And that's the school safety. You know, when you look at what's taking place in our culture, the culture is changing so quickly. And you have police departments and fire departments and parents. Everybody across the country is, how do we get a handle on the actions of young people that are causing harm to others, particularly in our schools. And there's just not an easy solution. Then you also look at one of the challenges that we've had, particularly in Stark County. Sadly, we were one of the highest with the suicide rates in Stark County. It was another very, very troubling statistic. So what we do now is we partnered with the schools. So we have 2 school resource officers. They're paid for by the city of North Canton, and the schools do reimburse us up to 75%, because 75% of their time is going to be in the schools, the high school, the middle schools, and the grade schools. And what this does is this just allows for better information gathering. The police officers can develop a relationship with them. They're also specially trained as SROs, which is resource officers for the school. So we're very proud of that partnership that we have with the schools. And then next, and this is a key component, is a school security plan. Now I think the reason this was so, we're so proud of this, is that when you start to look at how do you handle school security, there's so many different areas, from securing the building, from intelligence gathering, making sure that if somebody wants to do something that's unacceptable or harmful, you've got to be able to address it before it starts. So there's a number of components to this. But what we did, and the reason I have everybody's picture up here, is because it started with our city council deciding to fund an independent consultant who specializes in school security. It was Sachs Consulting. And they're noted throughout the country. They're right up here in Akron. And so they came down and they did a 15-month review. This was working with our police department, the fire department, the Stark County Sheriff, the North Canton City Schools. And this was to make sure that they were doing a full assessment as far as where are the vulnerabilities in our schools, in our middle school, and high school, and in our grade school. How can we improve upon that? And so after 15, it was between 15 and 16 months, the sheriff had committed his staff members, our police department had committed members to reviewing this and developing the plan. And so we finally have a security plan that is in place. And we also have Walsh University that's now participating in the security plan, because they are a part of our city, and we want to make sure that they are safe. And so I do want to thank Sheriff George Meyer, our police chief, Dutch Bacon, and our police chief, John Minnock, for getting this project going, and also our city council for having the vision to commit the funding to make sure that we can drive this through. And lastly, there's 2 reasons why I'm excited to make this last announcement. Number one, because he's the new president at Walsh University, which is our largest employer. And also, when you talk about safety and security, we have a valuable asset right here in North Canton. So the new president at Walsh, he's a really friendly guy, and I would like you to come up, if you would, please. Mr. Tim Collins. And so when you look at Tim Collins, a lot of you might not know that he is a fighter pilot. He's a fighter pilot. He trained fighter pilots, graduated from the Air Force Academy, and he's got a lot of education. I can't even begin to run through that, and I know he doesn't care about that. I was just fascinated with it myself. He's also, he's a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star Award winner, and so when it comes to safety and security, he knows all about that. And when I told him about the plan the first time I met him, because this was fascinating too. I was walking into Walsh for the appointment, right? And so I had parked over by the Davidson Center, so I'm walking in from the west. And I walked over to his office, and he wasn't there, and then his assistant says, well, where did you come from? The president is out in the parking lot. I said, what's he doing out there? He said, he's waiting for you to greet you. And I, oh my gosh, this is important. And so, but it just goes to show you, he's a very down-to-earth guy, and he did challenge the football players to a push-up contest. And they got to challenge me, because the last time I did that was with Jane Vigneault, a county commissioner who was 72 years old, but she beat me. So I'm not going to be doing any push-up contests, but
yeah, thank you so much. So, you know how you can tell if someone's a fighter pilot? They'll tell you. Yeah, so really, I'm not here unsupervised. If you haven't met Ben Young, he's a senior at Walsh, international affairs, government foreign affairs kind of a student, one of our best and brightest, and he is my adult supervision for tonight. Thank you for being here tonight. It is great to be here. Thank you so much to the mayor, to all of our elected officials, to all of our citizens, as well as those that are serving us. He was there within days of my arrival, so we sit down and I pull out my phone and I say, now, Mr. Mayor, what is the phone app that I need for parking in the town?
that's right.
And he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, in the Washington, D.C. area, you pay to park everywhere. If you have a phone app, then it goes a lot faster. He said, there is no parking. And
That's great.
Your chart on traffic? What traffic?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So,
You were impressed by that, right?
still,
yeah. That's not an hour and a half commute to work anymore.
no, I'm 16 miles from downtown, and I would plan 90 minutes to get to a meeting on time. If I was late, I was late. If I was early, I had 5 minutes. So I spent an hour and a half to go to a meeting and back.
And you love this community too, right?
Yeah, so it's great to be here. It's great to be part of the community. Next year, we celebrate our 60th anniversary. The fact of the matter is we're out there working every day on building leaders for the nation. That's where you find leaders in our country in almost every domain, or people that come from a college or university experience. The nation cannot live without us, and Walsh University cannot live without all of you. So thank you for everything, and we look forward to having you as a part of our celebration next year.
Thank you very much. So, I thought this was really a great way to close our State of the City. And one thing that I didn't mention here is when you look at, I can stand up here and say how great we are, right? We are a great city. But what's more important is that when you have the residents that respond in a survey that goes out to every home, and they're telling us, consistently year after year, when you get our police, fire, and EMS that have a nearly 90% good to excellent rating, when our park and recreation is consistently 80% good to excellent rating, when our trash that's being picked up is a nearly 93% good to excellent rating year after year. We make the toilets flush, we make the garbage picked up, and we plow the streets. It's not always real glamorous work, but when we do that, people are satisfied. And there's one other key point that we were really pleased to learn this year. The Ohio Chamber of Commerce did a study. So they reviewed all of the cities that had a 20,000 population roughly, and enough data in order to compare and contrast. So they had just over 2,500 cities in the state of Ohio, the largest cities in Ohio. And the city of North Canton was ranked number 17 when they looked at schools, jobs, quality of life, safety. We were in the top 1% for cities in Ohio. And we're able to do that because we've got great people and we have leadership that is committed to doing the very best that they can for the city, and we hope to continue that for years in the future. And so we thank you all for coming. And also, if you notice, this is being televised on local cable because this is our North Canton School representatives. So all of the camera members here, they're all high school students. And they have a better setup. I thought it was CNN when you first walked in there. You look at the mobile unit that they have out there, that's a $200,000 unit. And Tom Wilson leads that, and they do a great job. So we're very proud of our schools, and we're very committed to keeping things running smooth and keeping everybody safe. So thank you for coming today. And that concludes our State of the City. So we can take, let me see, we're going to have our council meeting, which is going to start at 7 o'clock. You can all take a break, and you're welcome to stay at the council meeting. And we're glad you came.